There are 6 packages of bacon on my kitchen counter in Columbus right now. I pulled them off shelves at 4 different stores over the past 2 weeks and lined them up side by side. Different brand names, different price points, different packaging. One of them costs nearly 3 times what another costs and has the word premium on the front twice. I turned all 6 over and read the ingredient panels in order. 6 packages. 1 formula. I have read the supplier specifications, the sourcing disclosures, and the formulation sheets on products in exactly this category. What I found is not that the labels lie outright. It is that they are carefully engineered to prevent you from asking the right questions about what is actually inside. 10 brands on the avoid list. For that actually held up. Number 10. The affordable option. Most people recognize the name. Far fewer know it is owned by Sigma Alimentos, a subsidiary of Alpha Foods, a Mexican conglomerate, making it the second largest national packaged meat brand in the United States by volume. The pitch is price and only price. Which raises one obvious question. What is being cut to get there? Everything that costs money. Standard industrial brine injection. Pork cured with water, salt, sugar, phosphates, sodium erythorbate, sodium nitrite. The pork comes from large-scale confinement operations. Gestation crates barely wider than the animal's body, routine low-dose antibiotics to prevent disease outbreaks, and ractopamine, a growth drug banned in over 160 countries including China, Russia, and the entire European Union, with no commitment from Bar-S about whether it is used or not. No reduced sodium option. No uncured line. No sourcing transparency. Nothing. The savings at checkout come directly out of ingredient quality and production standards. That is not a deal. That is the trade. Number 9. Great value. Walmart's house brand, optimized for cost, maximized for distribution, minimized in everything else. Same industrial cure. Pork cured with water, salt, erythorbate, sodium nitrite. The Environmental Working Group has flagged Great Value bacon specifically for high saturated fat and sodium nitrate levels. In a blind taste evaluation by Taste of Home, it ranked near the bottom of every product tested. Tasters described it as thin, inconsistent, and missing any real pork character. That tracks. Industrial brine injection pumps so much water and chemical solution into the meat that actual pork flavor gets diluted out. What you are tasting is salt, sugar, and curing chemistry. Walmart does not disclose processors or sourcing. The supplier can change with no update to the label. Over 4,700 locations stocking this product. Not because it earned that position, but through shelf placement and foot traffic alone. Number 8. Kroger Private Label. This is the one most people grab without thinking. Clean packaging, reasonable price. Nothing on the front raises any flags. So it goes in the cart. Flip it over instead. Pork cured with water, salt, sugar, sodium phosphate, sodium erythorbate, and sodium nitrate. 6 ingredients. That same formula is going to appear across most of this investigation. The repetition is itself part of the story. But Kroger has a specific problem the national brands do not. Store brand bacon is not made by Kroger. It is contracted out to whoever bids lowest, and that contractor can change month to month with no update to the label. The package looks identical. The pork inside may have come from a completely different facility, region, or supply chain. There is no way to know because Kroger is not required to tell you. Their Bacon Pieces product adds dextrose on top of the existing sugar and lists smoke flavoring instead of actual smoking, meaning liquid smoke extract, not real hardwood. The sodium phosphates are also worth noting. Research published in the journal Circulation in 2025 by scientists at UT Southwestern Medical Center found that high dietary phosphate intake promotes hypertension through a brain-mediated mechanism involving the sympathetic nervous system. Consistent weekend exposure adds up. Kroger discloses nothing about farm sourcing, animal welfare, or whether ractopamine was used anywhere in the supply chain. You are paying for bacon and getting zero information about where it came from. Number 7. Right brand. The premium-looking option. Hand-trimmed, naturally hickory smoked, thick-sliced, right there on the front. The branding looks craft. The price reflects it. Right brand is owned by Tyson Foods, the second largest meat processing company on earth. Then you read the ingredients. Pork cured with water, salt, sugar, sodium phosphates, and sodium nitrite, identical to every budget brand already on this list. Higher price, same chemistry. Right Brand's food service line, sold to restaurants who read specification sheets carefully, includes a note that the product may contain smoke flavoring. When selling to buyers who look closely, they acknowledge using liquid smoke extract. The retail pack claims real hickory smoking. That gap tells you where the priorities sit. They also label the front with "no hormones added" in bold. Federal law has banned hormone use in pork production for decades. Every piece of pork in America is already hormone-free by regulation. The USDA requires a disclaimer stating this, but it is in fine print while the bold claim faces the customer. Premium price, industrial cure, marketing built to fill the gap between what you believe and what is actually inside. Number 6. Armour. Armour is a Smithfield brand. Same parent, same formula. But Armour has something Farmland does not: a safety incident on record. In May 2022, the USDA issued a recall for approximately 185,610 pounds of Armour ready-to-eat bacon topping products due to possible metal contamination. Not a small precautionary pull. 185,000 pounds of product potentially containing metal fragments, distributed nationally. Armour is the budget tier within the Smithfield family. Less margin per unit means less spent on quality control. The recall is a direct illustration of what that math eventually produces. Smithfield, Farmland, Armour, Ecrick, Nathan's Famous, Farmer John, one company. The packaging was designed to make sure you never connect those dots. Number 5. Hormel Black Label. Black Label. Top of Hormel's lineup, higher price, premium shelf presence. And the ingredient panel is almost the standard formula with one addition buried in the middle that most buyers never catch. Pork cured with water, salt, sugar, dextrose, sodium erythorbate, and sodium nitrite. Dextrose is a corn-derived sugar. Hormel uses two separate sugar ingredients in this cure: regular sugar and dextrose, which accelerates the curing reaction and adds a noticeable layer of extra sweetness to the finished strip. If you have ever noticed that Black Label tastes sweeter than other brands, that is exactly why. You were eating a product with two forms of added sugar with nothing on the front of the package telling you that. That is not a premium product. That is a candy-cured strip of meat with a sophisticated name on it. Then there is the legal history. Hormel was a named defendant in the pork antitrust litigation that ran through federal courts over several years, with settlements reached in 2024. The allegation was that major pork producers, including Hormel, conspired to fix, raise, and stabilize prices of pork products sold to American consumers. The combined settlements across all defendants ran into the hundreds of millions of dollars. When the company behind your premium bacon was involved in coordinating to keep prices elevated, the word premium on the label means something different. Number 4. Farmland. This one looks like it comes from somewhere wholesome. The name, the packaging, the color palette, all of it suggests small-scale heartland farming. It is none of those things. Farmland is owned by Smithfield Foods, a name coming up again shortly, and not for good reasons. Smithfield also owns Ecrick, Nathan's Famous, and Farmer John. One conglomerate, dozens of separate labels, designed so shoppers never realize how concentrated the ownership actually is. Someone avoiding Smithfield but picking up Farmland is still buying Smithfield. They just do not know it. Same ingredient panel: pork, water, salt, sugar, sodium phosphates, sodium erythorbate, sodium nitrate. The classic cut delivers 290 milligrams of sodium across 2 fried slices. A 3-strip breakfast puts you past 600 milligrams before you have touched anything else on the plate. I am not speculating here. I have read the supplier contracts. I have been in the warehouses. This is what the paperwork says about how conglomerate branding works at the distribution level. The same product moves under different labels through different retail relationships, and the shopper has no mechanism to connect them unless someone puts the ownership structure in front of them. Number 3. Skirmayer. This is the one families have trusted for generations. Owned by Kraft Heinz, Oscar Mayer is one of the most recognized food brand names in American history. The bacon formula is standard industrial: pork cured with water, salt, ascorbate, and sodium nitrate. Nothing that separates it from what we have already covered. What moves Oscar Mayer to number 3 on this list happened in 2025. On July 2, the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service issued a Class 1 recall, the most serious classification that exists, covering approximately 367,812 pounds of Oscar Mayer fully cooked turkey bacon products due to potential contamination with Listeria monocytogenes. The affected products were manufactured between April 24 and June 11 of 2025 at a Kraft Heinz facility in Newberry, South Carolina, and distributed to retail locations nationwide and internationally. Class 1 means the USDA determined there was a reasonable probability that consuming this product would cause serious adverse health consequences or death. Listeria kills approximately 1 in 5 people who develop a serious infection. It is especially dangerous for adults over 65, pregnant women, and anyone with a compromised immune system. The CDC estimates Listeria causes roughly 260 deaths in the United States every year, the third leading cause of death from foodborne illness in America. Symptoms can take up to 70 days to appear. People could have eaten contaminated product in May and not known they were infected until late July. Emily had a package of Oscar Mayer turkey bacon in her refrigerator during that window. She had bought it the week before the recall was issued. When I called her with the recall information, she was quiet for a moment, and then said she had already eaten most of it. Oscar Mayer was the second largest refrigerated bacon brand in the United States by sales at that time, moving roughly $24 million of product in a single 12-week period. That volume means contaminated product reached an enormous number of households before any warning went out. Between the standard industrial cure and a recall of this magnitude at the highest possible USDA threat level, the brand generations of families have trusted needs real reconsideration. Number 2. Smithfield. Smithfield Foods controls roughly 30% of the American bacon market, the largest pork producer in the United States by a significant margin. And the ownership structure behind it has not received nearly the public attention it deserves. In 2013, Smithfield was acquired by WH Group, then known as Shuanghui International, a Chinese conglomerate, for $4.7 billion. It was the largest acquisition of an American company by a Chinese buyer in history at that point, financed in part by a $4 billion loan from the state-owned Bank of China. The deal triggered immediate concern in Congress. Lawmakers questioned directly whether a company controlling nearly a third of America's pork supply should be owned by a foreign entity with financial ties to a Chinese state bank. Let me be precise here because precision matters. There is a widely circulated claim that Smithfield bacon is processed in China and shipped back to American consumers. That is false. Smithfield's farming and processing operations remain entirely domestic. But the ownership is Chinese, and the parent company's track record in its home market is relevant context. Shuanghui was connected to a 2011 food safety scandal in China involving clenbuterol-tainted pork. Clenbuterol is banned in food production in both China and the United States because of its toxic effects on humans. People who consumed contaminated meat in that incident experienced nausea, heart palpitations, headaches, and tremors. These concerns were raised directly during congressional hearings on the acquisition. The deal went through anyway. Then the settlements. Smithfield paid $83 million to direct purchasers in 2021. $42 million to restaurants in 2022, and $75 million to indirect purchasers in a separate settlement. $200 million total from one company in pork price-fixing cases. And Smithfield owns farmland and armor, both already on this list. That is not a theory. That is a sourcing document, a legal settlement record, and a congressional hearing transcript. All publicly available, and all invisible on the front of the package. Number 1. Butterball turkey bacon. This is not the worst product on this list because of a safety incident or a fine. It is the worst because of something more deliberate and more targeted than either of those things. This is the product people switch to when they are genuinely trying to do the right thing. A doctor recommends cutting saturated fat. Someone managing blood pressure tries to reduce processed red meat. An older adult sees 60% less fat on the label and reaches for it, believing they have made a responsible choice. That belief is what Butterball is actually selling. And it is not accurate. Start with the first ingredient. Not turkey breast. Not turkey thigh. The first ingredient is mechanically separated turkey. That is the industry term for a process where turkey carcasses, after all the premium cuts have been removed, are forced at high pressure through a fine sieve. The result is a paste. That paste is formed and molded into strips designed to look like bacon from whole muscle. You are not eating a cut of turkey. You are eating restructured meat paste shaped to resemble something it has never been. The full ingredient list: mechanically separated turkey, water, salt, sugar, canola oil, sunflower oil, natural flavor, sodium phosphate, potassium acetate, acetic acid, sodium erythorbate, and sodium nitrate. Why does a bacon product contain canola oil and sunflower oil? Because when your base material is processed paste rather than a whole belly cut, you need added fats to create anything resembling the texture that real bacon produces through its own natural fat. The sodium phosphate binds water and holds the paste together so it keeps a shape in the pan long enough to look like it belongs there. Here is what will never appear on the front of that package. Turkey bacon carries the exact same Group 1 carcinogen classification as pork bacon. The World Health Organization's review of more than 800 studies made no distinction between cured processed pork and cured processed poultry. Processed meat is the category. The animal it came from does not change the chemistry of the cure. Sodium nitrite forms the same nitrosamines in a turkey product as in a pork product. Switching the species does not move the classification. I pulled the compliance records on this one, and the numbers are not reassuring. A 12-ingredient paste product carrying the same carcinogen classification as the pork product it was designed to replace, with added vegetable oils to simulate the fat profile of whole muscle meat, sold at a premium to the consumer who was specifically trying to eat better. That is the gap. That is why this one is number one. Emily asked me last spring whether she should switch to turkey bacon. She had seen it recommended by a nutritionist she follows online. I sent her the WHO classification, the mechanically separated turkey definition, and the ingredient panel side by side with what she was already eating. She did not switch. Before we get to the four that held up, one labeling term needs a straight explanation because it shows up on almost every clean label brand in this category and it is widely misunderstood. Many minimally processed bacon brands cure their product using celery powder instead of synthetic sodium nitrite. When that happens, the USDA requires the label to read, "Uncured, no nitrate or nitrite added except those naturally occurring in celery powder." That sounds meaningful. It is more complicated than it appears. Celery powder is naturally high in nitrate. During curing, bacterial action converts that nitrate into nitrite, chemically identical to the synthetic version. Dariush Mozaffarian, who served as Dean of the Friedman School of Nutrition Science and Policy at Tufts University, has stated publicly that celery-derived nitrite is chemically indistinguishable from its synthetic counterpart. Consumer Reports and the Center for Science in the Public Interest have both formally petitioned the USDA to close this labeling loophole. Still exists. I'm telling you this now because the four brands coming up earn their position through everything else. The sourcing, the farming standards, the minimal ingredient panels, the genuine smoking. Just do not read "no nitrate added" as nitrate-free. It is not. Best option 4. Niman Ranch. ****. This is what the farmland packaging was trying to suggest. This is what that actually looks like. Niman Ranch operates through a network of more than 750 independent family farms, and every one of them follows protocols the industrial brands on the worst list would never find economically workable at their scale. All Niman Ranch pork is certified humane. No gestation crates, no farrowing crates, no antibiotics ever, no added hormones. The breeds are heritage lines: Duroc, Chester White, and Berkshire, raised on vegetarian feed with no animal byproducts. Heritage breeds grow more slowly than commodity breeds. That slower development builds deeper flavor and better natural fat distribution. The finished bacon does not need sugar and chemical shortcuts to taste like something, because the meat itself has developed what industrial pork simply cannot produce. Niman Ranch prohibits ractopamine across their entire supply chain, one of very few nationally distributed brands committed to that standard from farm to package. The bacon is slow-smoked over real applewood for more than 6 hours. Actual hardwood, not liquid extract. Ingredient panel: pork, water, salt, turbinado sugar and celery powder. 5 ingredients: no phosphates, no synthetic nitrites, no artificial additives. The celery powder caveat still applies, but the sourcing, the welfare standards, the heritage breeds, and the genuine smoking put this in a completely different category from anything on the worst list. Best option 3. Tender Belly. Based in Austin, Texas, Tender Belly takes the craft approach further than almost anyone else at a national scale. The gap between their process and the industrial standard is structural, not marginal. The pork comes exclusively from Berkshire and Duroc heritage breeds, raised crate-free on vegetarian feed with no antibiotics and no added hormones. Where conventional industrial bacon is needle-injected with brine in minutes, Tender Belly dry rubs each belly by hand and slow cures it for 12 full days. Then it is naturally hardwood smoked for approximately 8 hours. The complete curing and smoking process takes close to 2 weeks. The industrial version takes hours. Dry rubbing means no added water weight. When you buy a pound of Tender Belly bacon, you are getting a pound of actual cured pork, not pork padded with brine that cooks off in the pan and leaves you with half of what you paid for. That difference shows up the moment it hits the heat. It holds its shape, crisps properly, and tastes like the meat, not the solution it was soaked in. There's no sugar line ingredient panel. Pork belly, spices, salt, juniper berry powder, juniper berry oil, cultured celery powder, water and cherry powder. No phosphates, no sodium erythorbate, no added sugar of any kind. The celery powder caveat still applies. But beyond that, this is a heritage breed product, dry rubbed, slow cured for nearly 2 weeks, and genuinely smoked. Best option 2. Peterson's Natural Farms. Peterson's Natural Farms out of Hamilton, Texas has become the clean eating reference point in this category. And the reason is obvious the moment you read the label. Their true no-sugar uncured bacon ingredient list: pork, water, and less than 2% of salt, vinegar, citrus extract, pomegranate extract, and rosemary extract. That is it. No celery powder, making this the only brand in this better tier without it. No dextrose, no sodium nitrite, no phosphates. The only preservation comes from vinegar and the natural antioxidant properties of rosemary, citrus, and pomegranate. Peterson's does not brine inject. The seasoning absorbs through an extended curing process, and the result is hickory smoked. The pork is raised with no antibiotics and no growth stimulants. The entire product line holds Whole30 approval, one of the more rigorous clean eating certifications available. What makes Peterson's the most practical recommendation for most buyers is where you can actually get it. This is not an online-only product. Peterson's is stocked at Whole Foods, Sprouts, and a wide range of regional grocers. You can add it to a regular shopping trip. For anyone who wants clean bacon with no celery powder, no added sugar, and no specialty order, Peterson's is the most accessible option in this category right now. Best option 1. U.S. Wellness Meats. U.S. Wellness Meats sets the benchmark every other brand in this investigation should be measured against. Their sugar-free pork bacon contains exactly 2 ingredients: hickory smoked pork and sea salt. 2 ingredients. No sugar, no dextrose, no sweeteners of any kind. No sodium nitrite, no sodium nitrate, no celery powder, no phosphates, no erythorbate, no smoke flavoring. Nothing else. The pork comes from pasture-raised, regeneratively farmed operations with no antibiotics and no added hormones. The animals live on open land, not in the confinement facilities that supply every brand on the worst list. Regenerative farming means the land itself is being actively improved through the process rather than steadily depleted. That is the opposite model in every way from the industrial operations behind those 10 brands. The bacon is hickory smoked over actual hardwood. The result is a product that tastes the way bacon tasted before water injection, chemical curing, and sugar loading became the industry standard. U.S. Wellness meets carries Whole30, Paleo, and keto approvals with no allergen concerns from hidden additives. The limitation is availability. This is an online-only brand, and the price reflects the quality. A 1 pound package costs significantly more than anything in a conventional grocery aisle. But when you hold 2 ingredients next to the 12 or 13 on a Butterball turkey bacon label, or next to the 6-ingredient industrial cure repeated across every worst list brand, the price difference stops looking like a premium. It starts looking like the actual cost of food that was made properly. If you want the full brand comparison in a format you can take into the store, the shopping guide is linked in the description. Here is what to take out of this investigation. 10 brands running the same industrial formula across hundreds of millions of packages. Hidden sugars in products sold as premium. Injected water weight that cooks off and leaves you less than you paid for. Curing agents carrying a Group 1 carcinogen classification. Ownership structures designed to make one conglomerate look like dozens of separate choices. Price-fixing settlements totaling hundreds of millions of dollars. A 185,000-pound metal contamination recall. A 367,000-pound listeria recall issued at the highest possible USDA threat level in 2025. And one product at the top of the worst list. Not because of a fine or an incident, but because it was built to be trusted by the consumer working hardest to make a better decision. For brands proving it does not have to work that way. Next time you are in the bacon aisle, flip the package over before it goes in the cart. Sodium phosphates, sodium nitrite, dextrose, smoke flavoring. That is industrial bacon regardless of what the front says. Short ingredient list, pasture-raised pork, Rayoul wood smoking. That is worth buying. One more thing before you go. Drop a comment with which brand you are currently buying. I work through every response and the patterns shape what I investigate next. And the next video is already in production. Cooking oils. There are 8 names in that aisle that are not what they appear to be, and 2 that I actually keep stocked in Columbus. Subscribe so you do not miss it.